All right, welcome to the deep dive. We're diving into the world of time management today,
Time management, yeah.
based on, well, actually a really fascinating collection of material. You pulled together some really great stuff for this one.
Oh, it's fun to curate, for sure. Lots of different angles on this topic.
Yeah, and what we're going to try to do is like really extract the core principles and the actionable strategies. The stuff that can make a real difference in how people actually approach their day-to-day.
Right. So much advice out there just doesn't translate into real life.
Yeah, yeah. Getting more clarity, more productivity, less stress, kind of that sweet spot where you feel like you're in control and making the most of your time.
And that's really the key, isn't it? Feeling in control rather than feeling controlled by the clock.
Totally, totally. And a lot of this comes down to, something that you highlighted in the material, this idea of focusing on what truly matters.
Right.
It's not just about doing more, it's about doing the right things.
It's so easy to get caught up in busyness and mistake that for productivity.
Yeah. Yeah, just like constantly checking things off a to-do list. But if those aren't actually moving the needle on what really matters, then what's the point?
Exactly. You're just spinning your wheels.
So, one of the themes that came up a lot in the material was this challenge that so many people face, feeling overwhelmed.
Right. It's almost universal.
And it's not necessarily because they don't have enough time. It's more like they struggle with how to use the time that they have effectively.
It's about directing your energy, your attention, not just filling the hours.
Right. Yeah. It's that sense of like, I have all this stuff I need to do, but not necessarily a clear sense of what I should be doing right now or how to actually make it all happen.
Prioritization is huge.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's dive right into that. I mean, the Eisenhower matrix.
Ah, the classic.
Came up a bunch.
And for good reason.
Urgent, important but not urgent but not important, and then the neither.
The time wasters.
Yeah, the stuff that, ideally we can just completely eliminate.
If only it were that easy.
Right. But how do we take this like 2x2 matrix, this framework, and actually apply it in the real world? Like, how does this give someone a sense of control over their day when they're feeling overwhelmed?
Well, it starts with a mindset shift.
Okay.
Recognizing that, not all tasks are created equal.
Right.
And there are things that, yes, they are urgent and they are important, and those are your fires.
Okay.
Those need to be dealt with immediately.
Got it.
But where the matrix really shines is in that quadrant of important but not urgent.
Okay, yeah.
This is where we're talking about strategic planning, your long-term goals.
The things we tend to put off.
Exactly. And they just keep getting pushed back because they're not screaming for our immediate attention.
Yeah, yeah. But these are the things that, the sources emphasize actually move us forward in a meaningful way.
Right. So the matrix is a tool to remind us to schedule those in.
To actually make time for them.
Make appointments with your future self.
I love that.
Block out those times.
Okay, so we've got the urgent, important.
Tackle those head on.
Got it. We've got the important, not urgent.
Schedule those in.
Schedule, okay.
Yes.
And then we've got the urgent, but not important.
This is your delegation zone.
Okay.
Can you pass this off to someone else?
Outsource it, yeah.
Even better if you can.
Right. And then the neither.
Ruthlessly eliminate.
Just get rid of it. Easier said than done sometimes, though, right?
It is, because often those urgent things are really just someone else's priority.
Yeah, yeah. It's that sense of like, oh, I need to respond to this email right now, but does it actually require your immediate attention?
Maybe not.
Probably not.
And then there's that fear, right?
Fear of what?
Of missing out, of letting people down.
Yeah, FOMO.
But saying no is a superpower.
Okay, we're going to come back to that one.
We have to. It's crucial.
For sure, for sure.
Oh.
But before we do, I want to talk about procrastination.
Oh, universal struggle.
This is something that, we all deal with to some extent.
In some form or another, yeah.
And your sources had some, I thought, really interesting insights into why we do this, why we put things off, even when we know we shouldn't.
It's not just laziness, as much as we like to tell ourselves that.
Right, right. It's something deeper.
It's often rooted in fear.
Okay. Fear of failure.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The fear of not being good enough, the fear of judgment, the fear of success even.
Interesting.
What if I actually achieve this thing and then what?
Yeah. Yeah. That can be scary.
And then there's perfectionism,
Okay. So fear, perfectionism, anything else.
overwhelm,
Right.
that feeling of just like, this is too much. I don't even know where to start.
So it's almost like a defense mechanism in a way.
Exactly. Procrastination is our brain's way of protecting us from discomfort.
Okay, so that's the why. But how do we break free?
Well, one strategy that came up a lot was the 5-minute rule.
Okay, tell me more about that.
It's so simple, yet so powerful, because you're basically tricking your brain.
How so?
You tell yourself, okay, I'm only going to work on this for 5 minutes.
Okay.
And that seems so doable, right?
Right, very manageable.
You lower the barrier to entry.
Okay.
And what happens is you get started, and often you just keep going.
The momentum kicks in.
Exactly.
So it's about making that initial step as small and painless as possible.
That's the key.
Okay, I like it. What else?
Well, temptation bundling came up a few times.
Okay, temptation bundling.
And this is really interesting. You pair something you dread doing with something you actually enjoy.
Okay, so it's like, I don't know, only letting yourself watch your favorite show while you're folding laundry.
Perfect example. Or listening to a podcast while you're working out.
Right, right. So you're basically creating a positive association with something that you would normally avoid.
You're tapping into the reward system in your brain.
Okay, and that makes it more likely that you'll actually do it.
Absolutely. And it can actually make those dreaded tasks more enjoyable over time.
So we've got the 5-minute rule, temptation bundling. What about when you're feeling overwhelmed by a really big project?
That's where micro deadlines come in.
Okay. Breaking things down into smaller chunks.
Exactly. You create a series of mini deadlines along the way.
Okay.
So instead of this looming deadline months away, you have these smaller milestones to hit.
Right. More manageable.
And each one gives you a sense of accomplishment, keeps you motivated.
So it's less about like trying to eat the whole elephant in one bite.
Right. You're taking it one bite at a time.
Okay. So we've got some strategies for prioritizing and actually getting started. Now let's talk about how we structure our time once we know what to work on. And time blocking came up a lot in your material.
It's a game changer for so many people.
Okay, so walk me through it.
You're essentially creating a schedule for your day,
Okay.
and you're assigning specific blocks of time to specific tasks.
So it's more than just like a to-do list.
Right. It's about being intentional with how you're spending your time.
Okay.
And this has a few benefits.
Like what?
First, it combats decision fatigue.
Okay.
You've already decided what you're going to work on and when.
So you're not constantly having to choose what to do next.
Exactly.
Okay, I see the value in that. What else?
It helps you prioritize.
Okay.
You're forced to make choices about what's truly important.
Right, because you only have so much time in each day.
And you're also more likely to actually stick to your schedule.
If you've already planned it out.
Right. Because it's like an appointment.
Okay. You know, the sources also talked about batching similar tasks together.
Right, like checking email or making phone calls.
Why is that so beneficial?
It's about reducing context switching.
Okay.
Every time you switch from one task to another, your brain has to readjust.
It takes mental energy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So by batching similar tasks, you're minimizing those transitions.
Okay, that makes sense.
And
Then, of course, we have to schedule breaks.
Absolutely.
It's not about grinding nonstop.
Breaks are essential for maintaining focus and preventing burnout. And they can be as simple as getting up and stretching, going for a walk, or just taking a few minutes to clear your head.
And then there's Parkinson's law.
Work expands to fill the time available.
Right, so if you give yourself all day to complete a task, it's probably going to take all day.
Most likely.
But if you set a specific time limit, you're more likely to get it done more efficiently.
Right. You create a sense of urgency.
Okay, so time blocking, batching tasks, scheduling breaks, all great strategies. Now, how do we actually protect that time?
It's a constant battle against distractions.
Oh, yeah.
And your sources highlight just how costly those distractions can be.
Right. I think they said it takes an average of 23 minutes to refocus after an interruption.
Something like that, yeah. And it adds up over the course of a day.
For sure. So what can we do to minimize distractions?
Well, first, create a distraction-free environment as much as possible.
Okay.
So that might mean finding a quiet workspace, turning off notifications, closing unnecessary tabs on your computer.
Okay, just minimizing the visual clutter as well.
Exactly. And then there's the Pomodoro technique.
Ah, yes, the classic.
25 minutes of focus work, followed by a 5-minute break.
Okay, I've heard of that.
And it's so effective because it forces you to take those breaks.
Which prevents burnout.
Exactly. And it also helps you train your brain to focus for those shorter bursts.
Okay, interesting.
Because you know a break is coming.
Right, so you can really push yourself during those work periods.
Exactly. And then there's the whole realm of digital distractions.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one these days.
Email, social media, news. It's a constant stream.
Constant barrage.
And your sources recommend setting clear boundaries.
Okay. Like what?
Designating specific times to check email.
So not constantly throughout the day?
Right. Turning off notifications.
Okay.
And even using website blockers or app timers if you need to.
Really take control.
Ultimately, it comes down to being more mindful of your relationship with technology.
Yeah. Using it as a tool rather than letting it use you.
Exactly.
So we've talked about prioritization, procrastination, time-blocking distractions. Now let's get into something that I think is really fascinating. The 80-20 rule.
The Pareto principle.
Exactly. This idea that 80% of our results come from just 20% of our efforts.
It's a powerful concept.
How do we actually apply this to time management?
Well, it starts with identifying that crucial 20%.
Okay. The activities that are actually moving the needle.
Right. The tasks that are truly making a difference.
So we need to get really honest with ourselves about what's truly important.
And ruthless about cutting out the rest.
Okay, and that's where saying no comes back in.
Absolutely.
Because if we're saying yes to everything, we're not really prioritizing anything.
Exactly. We're spreading ourselves too thin.
So 80-20 rule, identify that crucial 20%, focus on that, eliminate or delegate the rest.
And say no to anything that falls outside of that 20%.
Okay, great. Now let's talk about consistency.
The key to long-term success.
You know, your sources really emphasize the power of small daily habits.
Tiny steps leading to big changes.
It's almost counterintuitive.
It is. But it's about making those habits so easy that you can't not do them.
Okay, so give me some examples.
Reading one page of a book each day.
Okay.
Meditating for 5 minutes.
Okay.
Doing 10 push-ups.
Right.
Anything that feels achievable, even on your busiest days.
And those tiny actions start to add up over time.
They create momentum.
Okay.
And they also help you build self-discipline.
Because you're proving to yourself that you can stick to something.
Exactly.
And then there's the concept of habit stacking.
Yes.
You know, linking a new habit to an existing one.
You're basically piggybacking on an already established routine.
Okay, I like it. Give me an example.
Okay, let's say you want to start drinking more water.
Okay.
You could make a habit of drinking a glass of water every time you brush your teeth.
So you're attaching it to something you already do automatically.
Right.
And that makes it more likely that you'll actually remember to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And your sources also talk about reducing friction.
Okay. What does that mean?
It's about making the desired behavior as easy as possible.
Okay. So if you want to start exercising in the morning, you lay out your workout clothes the night before.
Exactly. You remove any obstacles that might prevent you from doing it.
Oh, I see.
And then there's tracking your progress.
Okay. So like marking a calendar each day that you complete a habit.
It gives you a visual representation of your success.
And it keeps you motivated.
Absolutely. And then there's the never miss twice rule.
Okay, I like that one.
Life happens, and you're going to miss a day here and there.
Right.
But the key is to not let that derail you.
So you get back on track as soon as possible.
Exactly. Don't let a single slip up turn into a pattern of failure.
Okay, I like it. Consistency, small habits, habit stacking, reducing friction, tracking progress, never miss twice. Great stuff. Now let's talk about multitasking.
The myth of productivity.
You know, your sources were pretty clear that multitasking is not actually efficient.
It's more like task switching.
Right. And that actually makes us less productive.
Absolutely. Your brain can only focus on one thing at a time.
Okay.
So every time you switch tasks, you're essentially losing time and mental energy.
Right. Because you have to reorient yourself each time.
Exactly. And this can lead to more errors and increased stress.
So the antidote is single tasking.
Focusing on one thing at a time and giving it your full attention.
Okay. How do we get better at that?
Well, start by prioritizing your tasks.
Okay.
Choose the most important thing you need to get done and focus on that first.
Got it.
Then, eliminate all distractions.
Close those tabs. Silence those notifications.
Exactly. And you can even use the Pomodoro technique within a single tasking framework.
Okay, so 25 minutes of focused work on one task.
And then a 5-minute break before moving on to the next one.
I see. So it's about training your brain to focus for longer periods of time.
Right. And this takes practice, especially if you're used to multitasking.
But the benefits are worth it.
Absolutely. Increased productivity, less stress, and higher quality work.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. Now, one of the most important themes that came up throughout the material was energy management.
It's as crucial as time management, if not more so.
Because it's not just about having more hours in the day.
Right. It's about how you use those hours.
And that's where understanding your energy levels comes in.
Exactly. You have peaks and troughs throughout the day.
Right.
And your sources emphasize that it's important to work with those natural rhythms.
Okay.
So schedule your most demanding tasks for when you're feeling most alert.
And save the less demanding tasks for when your energy is lower.
Exactly. And don't forget about breaks.
Right. Those are crucial for recharging.
Absolutely. And then there's exercise.
Okay.
Getting regular physical activity actually boosts your energy levels.
Counterintuitive, but it makes sense.
And then there's nutrition.
Okay, so eating the right foods.
And staying hydrated.
Right. Fueling your body and brain.
And of course, sleep.
Ah, yes, the foundation of everything.
7 to 8 hours of quality sleep is essential for optimal cognitive function and energy levels.
And so many people are sleep deprived.
It's a chronic problem.
But if you can prioritize sleep, it makes a huge difference.
You'll be more focused, more productive, and less stressed.
Okay, energy management. Huge, huge topic. Now let's circle back to something we touched on earlier. Saying no.
One of the most important skills you can develop.
Why is it so hard for so many people?
Well, there's that fear of letting people down,
Right.
the fear of missing out.
FOMO.
Exactly.
Yep.
And then there's this societal pressure to be agreeable, to be helpful.
Right, like saying no is somehow rude or selfish.
But your sources argue that saying no is actually an act of self-respect.
Okay, I like that.
It's about valuing your time and energy.
Right, because every time you say yes to something you don't really want to do, you're saying no to something else.
Exactly. And that something else might be more important.
Like spending time with your family or working on a passion project.
Or simply taking some time for yourself to rest and recharge.
So how do we get better at saying no?
Well, start by being clear about your priorities.
Okay.
What's truly important to you.
Right.
And then don't over-explain.
Just keep it simple and direct.
Exactly. You don't need to justify your decision.
And offer alternatives if you can.
Right. If someone asks you to take on a project, but you don't have time, maybe you can recommend someone else.
Okay.
And remember, saying no is not personal.
It's about protecting your time and energy.
And ultimately, it's about being able to show up fully for the things that matter most to you.
Okay, I love it. Now let's talk about morning routines.
Setting the tone for the day.
You know, your sources really emphasize the importance of how we start our day.
It has a ripple effect on everything that follows.
Okay.
So they recommend establishing a consistent wake-up time,
Okay.
even on weekends.
Right, to regulate your circadian rhythm.
Exactly. And avoid looking at your phone first thing. It's too easy to get sucked into that vortex of emails and social media.
Right, and that can set a really reactive tone for the day.
Instead, start your day with something intentional.
Like what?
Exercise, meditation, journaling, reading.
Okay. Anything that nourishes your mind and body.
Exactly. And make sure you hydrate and fuel yourself with a healthy breakfast.
Right, set yourself up for success.
And then take a few minutes to set your intentions for the day.
Okay.
Visualize what you want to accomplish or review your to-do list.
So you have a clear sense of direction.
Exactly. And your sources also recommend tackling your most important task first thing in the morning
Okay.
before you get bogged down in distractions.
So you can leverage that early morning energy and focus.
Exactly. And get a big win under your belt.
Okay, morning routines, super important. Now let's talk about technology.
The double-edged sword of time management.
Right, it can be both incredibly helpful and incredibly distracting.
The key is to use it intentionally.
Okay.
So your sources recommend exploring task management apps.
Okay, like Trello or Asana.
Exactly. To help you stay organized and on top of your to-do list.
Okay. And then there are reminder systems.
Google Calendar, Apple Reminders, anything that helps you remember important dates and deadlines.
Right, so you don't have to rely on your memory alone.
And then there are time tracking apps
Okay.
like Rescue Time or Toggle.
To help you understand how you're actually spending your time.
Exactly. And then there are automation tools.
Like Zapier.
Right. To automate repetitive tasks and free up your time for more important things.
Okay. And then there are distraction blockers.
Freedom, Forest, apps like that.
To help you stay focused when you need to.
Exactly. But the key with all of these tools is to use them mindfully.
Right. Don't let them control you.
Choose the tools that support your goals and use them strategically.
Okay, great advice. Now, one last topic. Reflection.
The cornerstone of continuous improvement.
You know, your sources really emphasize the importance of taking time to regularly review our time management strategies.
To see what's working, what's not, and where we can improve.
Okay.
So they recommend scheduling a weekly reflection time.
Okay, actually putting it on your calendar.
Exactly. And during that time, ask yourself some key questions.
Like what?
What went well this week?
Okay.
Where did I struggle?
Okay.
What can I do differently next week?
Okay. And by answering those questions, you can start to identify patterns and make adjustments.
You're essentially becoming your own time management coach.
I love that. And over time, you'll get better and better at managing your time.
You'll become more aware of your habits, your strengths, and your weaknesses.
And that self-awareness is key to making lasting change.
Absolutely.
Okay, so to wrap up, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into time management. We've talked about prioritizing, procrastination, time blocking, distractions, the 80-20 rule, consistency, multitasking, energy management, saying no, morning routines, technology, and reflection.
It's a lot to digest, but hopefully it's been helpful.
I think so. And the key takeaway is that these aren't just random tips and tricks.
Right. It's a holistic approach.
It's about changing your mindset and developing new habits.
And it's about becoming more intentional with how you spend your time and energy.
Now, for you listening, think about the one or two areas we've discussed that really resonated with you.
The things that felt most relevant to your own challenges.
And which of those techniques could you actually start implementing in the next few days?
Even a small change can make a big difference over time.
And don't be afraid to experiment.
Try different strategies and see what works best for you.
Time management is a very personal journey.
There's no one-size-fits-all solution.
But with consistent effort and a willingness to learn and adapt, you can absolutely get better at managing your time and achieving your goals.
And that's what it's all about.
Now, one last thought. If you could reclaim just 1 hour each day by implementing even a few of the principles we've discussed, what would you do at that time? What meaningful pursuit or personal goal could you dedicate that time to? And what kind of impact would that have on your life over the course of a year? Just something to think about. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.
It's been a pleasure.
I'll see you next time.